following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Next of Kin podcast. I'm your host, Rich, joined by my son, Christian.
What's up?
How are you?
Good.
Welcome back. We were off last week.
Yeah.
I think we were just tired.
I have a real job.
But you have a real job, and I had a lot going on, so it was a crazy couple weeks with stuff going on. So we're back, and I guess we have to just tell them. We gave in, and we decided.
We didn't go anywhere, actually.
We didn't go anywhere, but we decided that it was important that we finally saw this movie. The movie that all of you were probably waiting for us to see to discuss on the podcast. And what's that movie?
Yeah, we bring it up all the time.
This movie that I have been dreading the release.
We anticipated it for years.
Yes, I've anticipated this movie for years.
2009.
First of all, this movie.
When the first one came out.
Yes,
when
this
the
movie,
first one.
We waited longer than ever for this. Years. Delays, COVID, everything caused the delays for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's considered the greatest sequel of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, Next of Kin watched Puss in Boots 2. The Last Wish. The Last Wish.
We still haven't seen Avatar.
We have still not seen
I'm not
Avatar.
watching that shit.
We're just not.
I'm
going to watch it like on TBS.
I just think it's going to be the
That's
same.
That's what I'm going to wait.
Real quick on Avatar. It's just going to be the same fucking movie, isn't it? Like, but the effects are going to be better. Like, I don't know. That's what I haven't even looked at most of the reviews or anything regarding Avatar. But that's just what it's gonna be, isn't it? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the effects are really good.
I think the effects are really good, and I always said the effects were gonna be really good.
I just don't care
because they spent 14 years developing.
I guess some people could, because in my logic of it is like, okay, he made the tech, so that means within 3 years, everything else will look like that,
right?
And then something will come along within that 3 years that'll actually have a plot to match up to the level of film that it's trying to be.
Think of the concept.
To be fair, is just not what Cameron does. Even in his other $3 billion movies, it's not exactly, the plot has never been the fucking main point. Yes. In any of them. The plot's not the main point of Titanic. The plot's not the main point of, the first Avatar. Right. The plot's not the main point of this one, I imagine. It's not, because, the entire PR was just...
I don't want to talk about a movie that we haven't seen.
True.
All I will say is that in terms of the effects, I will say the effects were going to be good. If you think about it, in whatever 12 years or whatever it was between the first one and the second one...
It better be fucking good.
It better be good. You think about, people went through their entire professional sports careers in that time frame. So they developed their skills, they got good at something, they went and did it, they retired, they own another business now in the time between the two movies. So, yes, it should be very good because they spent, and then again, he spent a lot of money on it. So I never had an issue about whether the special effects would be good.
They only made 500. Isn't it the fucking highest grossing movie of all time?
I don't think it's the highest. I don't think it caught the other Avatar, Endgame, or...
what is that actually?
A Titanic. I think it's fourth or fifth.
Let's see.
It kind of dropped.
It's 2.3 billion. What is that, third?
I don't know. It kind of dropped off. It was doing really. I mean,
it's better than Titanic. Actually,
did it catch?
It beat Titanic.
So is it?
Well, I mean, it's still probably in fucking theaters in some places.
Yeah. So it's gonna probably.
It's not gonna get. I mean, Endgame's
No, he'll do.
Endgame's 2.8. No, yeah, he has 500,000 to go to get to Endgame, or 500 million. He has 500 million to go to get to Endgame.
He'll do what he did before. He's going to do a re-release.
Yeah. They haven't. Avatar has not made $500 million over the last.
He's going to do a re-release.
10 years. It has not
with a new scene.
It maybe made $100 million
with more
I would
trees
imagine, but
and more
it certainly didn't
fish.
make fucking $500 million over 12 years of
the
re-releases.
deleted scenes that didn't make it. That he wanted the return to Titanic. I mean, Tree Place. So Pandora. All right. Well, let's get to the movie that we really had low expectations for. We thought it was really. We heard it was really good though. So
Well, I didn't have
well, we had heard that it did very well.
Yeah.
It won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, correct?
I will actually check that real quick.
I'm pretty sure it did. So
It might have been Pinocchio.
I don't know. Maybe it was Pinocchio. I don't know.
Best animated film 2023.
No, nominated. It was nominated for one.
Yeah,
Oscar.
Pinocchio won, but that was like yeah. But to be fair, Pinocchio was a bit different. Like that was like that's not even like a Disney Pinocchio, right? That's
No,
like
it's
because that went to the public domain. So
Right.
that's like just Guillermo del Toro doing like an actual artful style like Pinocchio. So that's not really like the same as doing like a sequel to Puss in Boots, even though it was actually pretty technically good. And from what I remember, most people that are like fans of the animation like genre like actually wanted Puss in Boots to win, even over like a lot of everything else that was there, like especially all the Disney stuff, because there was fucking nothing last year.
Let's just kind of set the table here. So the other night we were like, I think we started talking about it again because we've been talking about watching it for a while.
Yeah,
And
I've seen
we've
clips
even
of it
said
and
on the
stuff.
podcast several times that we probably would see Puss in Boots before we saw Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish, before we saw Avatar 2.
When did the first movie come out? Like fucking 2010, 2011. Like what's
I
the?
don't know. Look, I think you looked it up before. I think it was 2010.
Let's see. 2011.
2011.
So this it took.
So 13 years.
It took 12
13
years.
in the making.
It took.
and just like Avatar 2, they've been working on this movie for 13 years.
Yes, the entire time.
12 years.
Yeah.
Even before they made the first one, they were working on this
So
one.
before we even start about like the film, this is like, I'm hoping this is the start of like. To be fair, there's been some interesting like newer like takes of animation, in the last like I don't know like 3 years ish. Like there's been a couple like even like stop motion-y like type like stuff that's been pretty good. But like this is like the first film that I think is like I think like the trend that like what's it called? Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, sure.
Like with that first movie, like in 2018, 2019, I think that like finally kind of caught up to like how well that movie was received and like the stylistic choices that were made for that movie. I think that is now caught up with a lot of the other studios because like this is DreamWorks like first attempt because it's not that it's like identical to like or like even similar I would say to the. To that style of like animation, but like it's just the mix of animation style, the more dynamicness, like the
There was
just the
definitely-
beautification of it, like which is just
So
like.
let's we got to get into this now.
Yeah.
So because let's actually get into our actual discussion.
So
about
I'm
it.
curious. So that's my only thing is like I'm curious if like there's gonna be more stuff in
Well-
this vein now because people realize like oh
Well,
crap,
I
and
mean-
like these movies will be like received well. They'll make money. Like you just gotta actually put some extra little bit of oomph into them. Like
So, and I think that's the thing. I mean, a lot of the DreamWorks types movies that you see are, even the Sony Picture ones, are really kind of just, they're cha-chung, there's copycat, put it in the next
Yeah.
one. Every sequence looks like the previous sequence from a previous movie. There's random chases just for it. There's potty humor. There's like very current humor, like that's not going to age well. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like, then they'll make a reference to like TikTok or something. And in 5-10 years, that won't be anything.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of always been my criticism of those movies over, say, the Pixar movies. But this one was really good.
And it came out of nowhere until like, they didn't even like they didn't
Well, let me
even,
talk for a
they
second.
didn't PR
I was
this show. Like
shocked.
nobody knew about like the PR
No,
of this movie at all.
not.
Like
This was not a lot of conversations at this movie. It just kind of came out.
they just dropped in. People were like, oh shit, why is this good?
yeah,
Like,
and it
why
was
is-
way too good.
Like,
for
why did
what,
they decide to pop off on the random ass sequel to like one of the most forgettable DreamWorks films, which is literally just a spin off of one of their other franchises?
Yes.
And it makes the cardinal mistake in that first movie of the entire like idea of Shrek of like that franchise is it takes the fairy tale and makes fun of them and it subverts it. Whereas that movie plays it straight from what I remember. Like it just plays like Puss in Boots, like the normal story almost.
It's
like,
almost like it's almost like it doesn't.
this one subverts it again. Like
it
this one goes
almost-
back to the old style
Well,
of like
this
what they're
one-
supposed to do.
This movie. I mean, I'm 56.
Yeah.
You're not a kid.
No.
We enjoyed this.
No, it was fun. Like we had a smile on our face most of the.
We were
movie.
laughing
Yeah.
out loud.
Yeah,
I was laughing
there was
out
some good-
loud.
there was some good
There
stuff.
was some really good.
I mean, there
bits.
were voice actors that we liked in it
Well,
as
that's
well,
just
which
true.
helped.
I mean, so
like
let's just
John
kinda talk
Mulaney, we
about it.
both liked.
So Antonio Barris is back as Puss in Boots. Selma Hayek is back as Kitty Softpaws, which is funny because they've been in a lot of movies together, going back to Roberto Rodriguez's movies. So they've been on screen a lot.
and
together.
they have good voice actor chemistry. Those two characters, like
Harvey
you enjoy.
Guillen playing Perito was
Yeah.
great. And like Florence Pugh and Olivia, and then okay, so that
Who's Florence Pugh? Was that
isn't she a singer?
No. I mean, no, she's an actress. But,
She was Goldilocks.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know that was Goldilocks.
Yeah,
Okay.
so she's in Black Widow. She's Yolanda.
Oh, I guess she's using her
Yelena.
English accent.
So
She's
so
English.
what I really liked was the fact like something as simple is there's like bounty hunters basically looking for Puss in Boots in this story, and one of them is Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So they totally went meta with like
And they have like East London accents. For
yeah,
some
like
reason.
and it's the guys playing.
Or their Geordie accent. I don't even remember.
Like-
actually, I think they're East London accents.
I don't know.
but-
It's almost like they're Liverpool, mate. They're like, we're going
Yeah,
to
it's like,
take
it's like
you out.
yeah, it's the aggressive, more like harsh.
Yeah,
Like,
like Ray Winstone is the father.
it's
and
the
then
Jason
Olivia
Statham.
Coleman
It's the
is
Jason
Mama
Statham
Bears.
accent.
Yeah,
It's that one.
It's
yeah.
definitely. And then so they just had so much fun with it.
Yeah.
And then John Mulaney plays
It just
Big
plays
Jack.
the most unhinged character
Jack
ever.
Corner.
Who's one of those unhinged
Corner.
fucking characters
Yeah.
I've ever seen in anything.
They
like
make-
he just
yeah.
plays him straight unhinged. Like there's nothing to it. There's no nuance. He's just unhinged. Like that's it. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like, also, his name is Big Jack Horner. Like big
Jack
is in his
Corner.
name. Like,
Instead of little Jack Corner sitting in a corner.
which is like Zoomer ass.
It's like he's been bullied, so now he's just a jerk. And it's just so they even have the cricket show up on his shoulder, and it's like
Yeah, he like pulls out like a fucking like it's
and
one
I
of
don't
his
know.
artifacts.
I don't even know. Oh, it was the ethical bug was Kevin
Ethical
McCon.
Bug.
It was his character's name, Ethical Bug.
Who was the
And it was who
was the actor?
Kevin McCon, who I don't even know who that
don't
is.
even know.
They don't even have like a picture for him, and he just basically does a Jimmy Stewart
Yeah,
imitation.
he's just doing
Well,
it,
why?
yeah.
I don't know if I respect. What? I don't think that's a very good idea. And then
You're horrible.
I think you're a terrible person. He goes, "I took it this long." I mean, it just like there's the like it's
And he
just
has like
so
and like that's where that's mainly where they do the subversion of like the trope because he has like all sorts of like well known like fairy tale like items and
Yeah.
shit that he's using as like weapons
Yeah.
and like artifacts to help
like
him
unicorn, like baby unicorn horns.
they're all everyone
like are just like
it's like because they have like 5 or 6 like different people like trying to I guess there's like 3 or like well I guess Puss
the
in-
wolf's trying to get
There's
him.
like 3 teams basically trying to get it, although like Goldilocks is like keeping what her main wish is from like the rest of like the bears, and then like Puss in Boots is not like allied totally with Soft Paws at the
Softpaws.
beginning, and by the end they are. But and then you have what's his name, who's just crazy by himself. And he has like the 12 dudes that are all dead by
He's
the
got his,
end.
like,
Like,
cooks
they
that are
literally
all dead.
die too.
All the cooks get
They
killed.
literally die.
It's just I don't really care. What I really thought was great was just the concept that he realized he runs out of wishes, so he goes to like a lives with a cat lady, and he kind of just
Which
like
the montage of him
accept
dying
his-
was fun too. Actually,
yeah, like he accepts his fate,
Yeah.
and then obviously the story starts from there. When he goes start looking for the last wish. But the two things that struck, first of all, talk about the opening sequence a little bit, because obviously you can talk about the opening sequence and why it's so cool.
Well, I think even the opening, even like in terms of like just the thematic of the story, like the opening sequence like starts with this big like fight against the giant guy, and he's doing like his typical like town to town like
Right.
hero kind of stuff, which they kind of like they move it around into like he's running,
Yes.
kind of, which is a common,
He's very Zorro.
which is a comic,
Which, because again,
common trope.
they turn Puss in Boots basically into Zorro the cat.
Yeah, they give him a nice. People don't even think clock this. He has a redesign in this movie as well. That's like
sure.
very different from like they give him a bigger hat.
Right.
Like they get rid of his mustache that he has in like the I think
Right.
the Shrek movies and the others,
Right.
and they have like this updated character model, and it's better kind of. It
Oh,
just
yeah,
like
for
and it just
sure.
really like.
But talk about the fight sequence, like what it ripped off.
Well, weirdly, and this is like when they had fight sequences. and I think we've already talked about this on this before because I've seen this clip like months ago.
Right.
But every time they did a fight scene, they would just do this weird little trick with the animation where they just slowed the frames.
Right.
Like I don't know, and it made it work.
Almost
I don't know,
like it was
I don't know why
slow-mo.
everyone's freaking out. Like
Yeah.
why less frames and like less animation is like making everyone freak out. But it looked great.
Well,
and
they
has,
made
like,
it
a
look like
distinct,
it was
like-
going into high speed.
Yeah, it had like a distinct.
They made it
look
look like
to
it looked like it was high speed def, but it's a
But
total
it's very
rip-off
obvious.
of
It's very obviously a reference to Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
Like which you've seen a bit of. Like
the way he's flying around.
yeah, the
and-
way he's moving
and,
around
you know,
and the
he's
movements
spinning
and
in the
stuff. Like
cat
it's
movements
totally
and-
Attack on Titan.
And so
yeah.
even that, like just that stuff, that meta stuff that makes you just
a couple
really
nice
appreciate
Shrek
it.
cameos that were like not like out
Yeah.
of place. They were like tasteful. Like they had the gingerbread guy and one of the
Yeah.
lives where he dead. And then I think there was like Pinocchio at a different point, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, like there's a Pinocchio. I think he's like at a workshop or something.
And at
like
the
that.
end, well, did not like they're weirdly enough.
They set it up that we're
they set it up
getting
that
the
they're
Shrek
probably gonna
version
go
back.
that they were probably gonna do another Shrek.
Yeah.
Because they have him like on a boat at the end, and they show like the far away, whatever the fuck the one place is called. And I'm not like the biggest like Shrek fan in the world, but like I'll watch, but like Shrek 2 is a good animated movie.
Right.
Shrek 1 is pretty fine and actually does like a pretty unique like take on a thing. They're a little bit dated. Don't get me wrong. They're very dated actually if you watch them today.
But
They
feel
have a
like-
lot of cultural influence. Like a shit ton of like social media, like meme, like cultural
Yeah.
influence. Like that probably sounds cringe as hell. But like genuinely, like Shrek has this weird staying power where it's persisted. And if you like apply like that style of animation and like a little bit more of like that tone to Shrek, then yeah, that'll get butts in seat. That'll make a lot of money.
Well,
like this movie made a lot of money. This movie made fucking over $400 million.
That's a lot
like,
for an animated
For an
film.
animated film, that's a lot. Like it's more than Spider-Verse made. Like when that came out,
Well,
like years
I mean,
ago.
let me go through a couple things that I really liked. I like the fact he's hanging out. He's hanging out with the other cats, and he's just kind of like giving up. And there's another cat that starts talking to him, and you realize it's not a cat
It's
at all.
just a dog.
It's just a dog. That's just the most unlikable dog ever, and it's just pretending to be a cat. And then later, and no one really notices
He was
it.
likable, man.
Nobody really. Well, eventually he grows on you, of course.
Oh, he knows puss,
and
though,
you know
yes.
the storyline of how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And eventually it's like that. One of the characters at some point just says, "That's not a cat. That's just a dog dressed
That's
like
just
a
a dog
cat."
dressed as a cat.
And they just casually like throw it out
like, oh,
there.
okay.
It's so good. And then even
Yeah, the voice acting is very
there
good in
was
this. Like the
5
timing
or 6
is on
times we just were rolling in our seats.
Yeah.
Because it was that funny. Like even when the wolf that's like Death just says,
That guy's
I'm just Death.
Yeah, he's genuinely one of the best.
He wasn't like a
real quick,
wolf that was gonna kill you. He's just Death.
Genuinely, I think it's important. I think it's important to scare kids. I just think it is.
Well, that's what fairy tales do.
No, that's what I'm saying. There's lessons that you learn from being afraid of media like, as a child, and that's
most
like
of
a
your nursery
genuinely
rhymes are terrible.
And that's like a genuine
Yeah.
like thing that like people deal with like a dread of death and like and like of just I don't know going day by day and like dreading like the
Right.
the unknown
Right.
or whatever. And like they like kind of adapted that into like a very like understandable. Like, and they tied anxiety to it. They tied like because there's even like this really good scene. They have like a panic attack scene like in the movie, and it's like really tastefully done. Like it's done better than most like actual like live action panic attack scenes have been done in like a lot of other media before.
Well, even
so,
at
and it's
one
a fucking
point-
cartoon. Like
Well, when Big Jack Corner's about to kill him, when John Mulaney's just tremendous.
Yeah, he's
as Big
so
Jack Corner.
unhinged in this.
You know what's great? He's unhinged, but he really had a great character too because it really sounded like John Mulaney just doing stand up. Like
no, it didn't
he
sound
really-
like a stand up. No,
he
it
went-
sounded like John Mulaney.
It did sound like John Mulaney, but it was definitely a John Mulaney character as opposed to just John Mulaney going, "That's right," like, "Don't look at me." Like he had a great character that he did with it, and I like the point where like he's
He
gonna
had, like-
kill
he
him,
literally had, like,
and
shit
he's like,
post-
"Are you just?" And they do all these
He literally had like
flashbacks.
shit post humor. It was
Yeah.
literally like like those really shitty like Twitter shit posts that I always talk about. Like to you, like
No,
like
but
when
I
show
really
you,
liked-
it is like that level of humor.
But I like that one little bit where they were like, and they did like a flashback, and you saw things from Shrek and everything, and they're like,
yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
are you just? Is your life just flashing before your eyes?" Like every little thing that they did was just done well, and again.
There's some really nice art
versus
stuff, too.
most of the other stuff that comes out of DreamWorks that doesn't hold up over time. I think this one really will hold up.
Yeah,
over
this is
time.
one of the better DreamWorks films. Like that, like Death is what the wolf's called, and this is one of the like best.
He's
animated.
not the big bad
He's
wolf,
like
he's just
genuinely one of
Death.
the best villains, like
Yeah.
the animated villains, like that's
Right.
probably ever like been made. Genuinely, like he's really good. Like the story is like he's not even like the main antagonist really. Like
right.
which actually like neither of the villains feel like the main antagonist. Weirdly enough, There's a very weird vibe to this film where like everyone is like. Or, I don't know. You know what I mean? You know what I mean at all?
Yeah, there really wasn't anyone that was necessarily like. I mean, they're all trying to get to
because
the
everyone
wish.
kind of has a selfish motive. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
they're all
obviously no
kinda-
one gets
yeah.
the wish, but everyone's kind of being selfish. Like even Push to an extent is being selfish,
Right.
in a way. And Softballs, I don't remember what her wish was, but
She was just hired to get the wish. I think.
no, she wanted it. She tried to get hired, but she turned them down, and then she stole it tried to steal it for
okay.
herself,
All right.
which was good too.
Well, I mean, I just
And
really.
you're supposed to be dead. I got better. I got
better. Yeah, that's like a Monty Python. Like I don't know
why Antonio
better.
Banderas like really actually
Yeah.
genuinely kills it as the voice. So this
Yeah.
like genuinely like
Because he's so into it. Because he really just.
no, you can
takes,
tell they all cared about it. Like you can
he
tell
re-
when there's
he
a lot
just-
of effort being put
I mean,
into
obviously,
something.
when they did Shrek the first time and they did Puss
Yeah.
in Boots, they decided they wanted Antonio Banderas because he had just done Zorro.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that he's got even. It's because the character's become even more and more like Zorro.
Yeah,
Zorro as
yeah.
it's gone along. Like he's really just doing a throwback to his Zorro.
got him a big
The first
Cad Bane
Zorro,
hat.
not even like the other ones. Got
Yeah.
the Cad Bane hat.
That's
And
what
when
I
he goes
call it,
like
yeah.
this, it's just like he does the thing, and it's just the P
Yeah.
instead of like even in the one when he makes a giant one when the giant's gonna fall. Like
it's
it's
just like
it's
man,
just all.
he's like so because they do a really good job in the beginning of setting like the tone of Puss. Puss is this like arrogant guy,
Yes.
who's never been like touched by a blade, and then they have it so immediately when Death shows up that like. And again, that's how they power scale like Death into being so scary too. Because one, the voice actor for Death is great.
Yeah.
Two, the design is actually like genuinely really well done.
Right.
And intimidating. And then two, you just have Puss like, and if you look at the crowd, like when like they're all cheering, Death's just standing there.
Yeah.
He's just in the crowd. He's there the entire time, just watching, like in all the clips, and it's like he's in the background constantly.
It's
But,
definitely a movie that I got to rewatch because I want to go back and get some of the because there's times that I'm sure I was laughing that I missed other bits.
True, but you have like Puss beat the big giant thing. Like you have him like just take it out,
Right.
like pretty easily actually, without much of like a sweat actually.
Right.
And then he faces Death, and Death just immediately like does him in, makes him bleed, and that's a crazy shot too. Where they just have like
Yeah,
the animated shot of the like
yeah.
the blood dripping into shot like off of his forehead,
It's
and then him,
so-
and
I
him not
mean-
picking up his sword, and then they use that so he doesn't have his sword the rest of the movie.
Right.
So
It's so cool. Like they definitely
until
just,
the enemy throws it at him at the end, he's like pick it up. He's like
Yeah, no, it's definitely like really cool the way they really came up with. They really worked on this.
There's a lot of
movie
unique in
from,
this movie.
Like the story, they definitely took their, I don't know when they decided to do this movie. I don't know if it's kind of a reboot to try to get the Shrek universe going again.
I think it probably. Yeah.
I haven't seen anything about that. I don't care.
I mean, that's what I think the Far, Far Away is at the end. I think they
Well,
thought, like,
yeah, they're on a boat.
it's like,
and
if we're going to bring
right.
it back, we might as well bring it back with, like, a bang. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, we might as well do it
And let's
right.
be honest, like, it really is going to hold up.
I think people were energized. People want another Shrek now
Yeah.
because of this. Like,
Yeah.
genuinely, that's a fact.
as long
like,
as they make him, like, the major character, and they got to bring back
Well, like, I
Donkey.
think the idea is, like, they would be added to the lineup. Like
Right.
you'd get Softpaws and the dog get to like be on the team or whatever.
Even
this time,
something
too.
as stupid as the milk. Like he goes to the bar and it's
Yeah.
like
He's
he's
a
gonna
shot of
drink
milk,
like a
yeah.
shot and he drinks the milk, but he still looks like a cat.
Yeah.
Like it's still like, and he goes, and I want the better stuff, and he's I got the good stuff in the back. And he goes, the bartender goes back.
Yeah.
He's like what? He's gonna get the better milk?
Yeah.
Like
I
it's
don't
like
think
it's
there's
the
any
secret.
bad
It's
characters
just,
in this movie.
yeah.
Even characters that get like small
Like the
little
stupid
appearances.
doctor that's
like
there
the
for one
doctor.
scene.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
doctor, and that's the most Shrek character in the movie
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
He's the doctor.
Right.
The old lady's fine for the little
Old
bit she's
lady's
in
good.
it. Even like the little governor from
Yeah.
the beginning was good. And then even the music in this film is really good.
Yeah.
Like there's this ethereal thing at the end when they get to the wishing star that has no right to be in an animated movie. Like the fight scene music at the beginning is really good. There's a great fight scene when he's like right before he has his panic attack where like the shot goes like black and red and it's like really stylized, right? And then
It really
and then
was
you have
a very-
and then the fight scene actually at the end where it's like Puss versus like the wolf is really actually really well shot. Nice
Yeah.
choreography,
Yeah.
anime style like fighting kinda. which is definitely has some anime influence. In it as
obviously,
well.
there, like animation's come a long way since the last Shrek movie. Or
I mean, hey,
whatever
the
it
new
is.
Spider-Verse movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was
So-
the longest Hollywood animated film of all time.
So let's move off.
I just want to
this
think if there's
movie.
anything else that I can think of related to
Just again, I think visually it's
Oh,
incredibly.
the forest. That was a very unique concept.
The way
because they had the map that basically took you to the star, but whoever was holding the map, the path and the challenges in the way changed, and then like literally around them physically,
And
they
what,
had
like-
to go back and forth. So like, and everyone
And
had
the
a hard
names-
one
and the-
except for the dog.
The names on the maps were like the forest of like misery.
Yeah.
Like they weren't like, the forest of death or like,
Yeah.
they were all like these really like
And they got
really
worse and
overly,
worse as they-
like each one. It was like
pain
Candyland
and
but worse.
suffering. It's
Like,
like-
like the eternal forest of
And
like
then they get to
loneliness
the
or
dog,
something
and it was
like that.
the pocket full of
It was like all
posies,
candy
the
and
river
shit.
of relaxation,
Yeah, like-
and then it was like the field of like quick and easy solutions or something like. It was
Like,
so there's some
again-
really genuinely like really incredible like animation work,
incredibly
done for this
well-
film.
incredibly well
like very
written.
well done
Yeah.
writing, like above brow writing for animation, like well
Yeah.
above average what you're gonna see. Good characters, like not even like almost every character is fleshed out too. There's very few, like even like Goldilocks and the Three Bears thing, which is very much the third plot of the movie, right? Like or like a B plot, a C plot.
For sure.
Like those characters all feel fleshed out. Goldilocks is like ideas and like her backstory and her like kind of like sadness at like not having a family, and then her realization. That all feels fleshed out. It doesn't feel too quick. Like everyone kind of gets enough time to breathe a little bit. Except
it's
for
funny-
John Mulaney's character, but he doesn't even need to breathe because he just needs to be unhinged.
just be
Like
unhinged.
he's
Well,
like
the
that's
funny
there.
thing about this character, like, okay, I was looking at the writers.
Yeah.
Like, all these writers, none of them have done anything good. Like none of them, like, the one did, like, Dora and the Lost City of Gold. And
Yeah,
the
it's a
other one
great
did,
film,
like, the Lego Ninjago movie. Like, none of them have, like, one of them worked. I mean, like, I'm looking
Well, they
at.
did a good job with this. So.
They, none of them, like, some
Who's
of
the
them did the
director?
first Puss in Boots.
The director.
The director, well, there's two directors.
Oh, okay.
Joel Crawford.
I've heard that name.
He did, Croods and Rise of the Guardians and Lego movies. Like, it's not like these guys are.
To be fair, I've never seen Croods, but people have said Croods is better than people give it credit for. So maybe that's I don't know. Maybe that's another weird one. I don't know.
So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna make. Here's my. And the other guy just directed like Penguins of Madagascar and stuff.
Let him
so
write
it's just
Shrek.
regular.
Let him write Shrek.
I mean,
they seem to have an idea of this type of.
Granted,
like,
most
thing.
of the time the animated directors tend to stay with animated. Like you don't usually go from animation to live action.
There
back
are
and forth
some
very
exceptions,
often.
but yeah.
In general, if you're an animated guy, you're an animated guy. But they really got what they wanted for this. And I'm going to argue that, like when someone asks me, like, what's the greatest movie sequel of all time, compared to the first movie's not great.
That movie on top 10 lists last year for the year. Like, genuinely.
I'm going to put this movie as obviously one of the best movies of last year because it came out last year.
I think so.
But also in terms of sequels, it's how often
I mean,
you get a
it's way
sequel.
better. It's way better.
How
than
often you get a sequel that's better than the original?
I mean, the original's forgettable. It's 12 years later,
Right?
And like it just fucking like.
I don't
kicks it
even
out, like,
remember
knocks it
the
out of-
original.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think it is. It's like a beanstalk thing, maybe
Yeah,
if I
think
remember
so.
correctly.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all I remember.
I think
I
you're
think
kinda
Humpty Dumpty's in it. I think that's.
Right.
I think that's all I remember from.
So all right. So if you haven't seen it, I'm telling you,
recommend it. It's a good time.
rent it. It's
like an hour
just
and
it
40
was
minutes, yeah.
$5 on Amazon or whatever I rented it for. It's great, and it was worth the
ironically,
90, 100 minutes, whatever it was, because I laughed my ass off. I thought it was great.
Yeah, clever little film.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
and again, they didn't
everything
even,
doesn't
and
have
they
to win
didn't
the
even pick it
Oscar.
up. Like they didn't spend a year putting trailers out showing off all the animations out.
Right.
They just dropped it and let people
Right.
be surprised. So it's nice when occasionally that type of thing happens.
I agree with
Like,
that. I kind of like that once in
I
a while.
understand
you
that's
just
not
get a
how
movie.
like this
Yeah.
works in the marketing and all that, but that's cool that like it did kind of sleep by. And then when it did come out, it literally made money strictly from word of mouth because it didn't make money because of the marketing. I remember I didn't know this movie was coming out until a week before it came out. Like genuinely, and then I heard a week later, oh, it's good apparently, and and it's got a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. What?
I mean, it's a little lower now, but like it definitely.
Oh yeah, that always happens.
That
As it goes on a
happens.
little
So-
bit. But
so again, I highly recommend it. We don't exactly talk. So let's move right into another animated movie that we saw the trailer for. I cannot wait for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 or whatever it's called.
I love.
First of all, you already mentioned it's going to be the longest animated movie.
Yeah, the first one's is one of my favorite superhero movies, just in general.
Well, let me again. We talk about this all the time. I probably never would have watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the first one. I probably would have never watched it. Again, you come walking in and say, have you seen the Spider-Man animated movie? And I'm like, really? I don't know. And he's like, no, you got to watch this. So again, we always talk about like why we do this show. Like,
I think it's the best Spider-Man movie. I genuinely think it is.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, every Spider-Man, like the eras of like you can't even compare the different like eras of Spider-Man movies really, because like the original three are nothing like the next two a decade later, which are nothing like the MCU ones, and then this one's nothing like anything of this one's the most serious. This one's actually probably the most serious take. Like, besides some of the funny, like, animation quirks that usually come along with it. This is one of the more serious, like, Spider-Man movies that have been out.
The Spider-Pig is kind of a little, like, maybe too much. But
I mean, like, Miles is, like, arc, I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you focus just on the main Miles arc with the parallel Spider-Man, the Peter Parker kind of, like, the...
Yeah, and Gwen, and then his uncle.
And everything going on with his uncle and his father... I mean, yes, that story is obviously very well done.
And it's very true
which you can do in animation better than
you
you can do in live. Easier in many ways to do that, what they did there in animation versus live action. But I put it up there. I mean, I don't know how many, there's been like 9 Spider-Man movies now? 10? 3, 2.
It'd be 3, 2, and 1, yeah.
And 1, so we got 9.
If you don't count like Venom and shit.
I don't count
and
Venom
like Morbius
and shit.
and all those.
Those are not Spider-Man
movies.
Morbius. And I don't count any of the Spider-Man team-up movies when he's in the Marvel ones. So if you just take those 9 Spider-Man movies, I probably
maybe Spider-Man 2.
I don't think
I would maybe I'd put Spider-Man 2 above it if I see it.
I really like Spider-Man 2 a lot, so I think I'd have to because I think Doc Ock's
I could accept Spider-Man 2 maybe being considered better. That's fine.
And I like the Amazing Spider-Man.
I mean, but
I like the Amazing Spider-Man.
But that's just because Andrew Garfield's the best one. And
okay,
he's
then
that's the most enjoyable to watch because Andrew Garfield's the best actor who's played Spider-Man.
But that allows me to push that movie up higher than Spider-Verse because also I like the fact that of all the Spider-Man origins, I think let me finish. Yeah. Amazing Spider-Man's the most accurate.
True. And I mean, even in No Way Home,
except he's too tall.
In No Way Home, he's the best. I think he actually has the best, like, does the best ones is like the 3 of them. I think he's the most, like, one that you get like the most moments out of, who like you enjoy the most seeing again.
I think because you know what the interesting thing is about No Way Home for me is I've thought back and I've watched it a couple times now. It's not just a random cameo. It's a random cameo in a sense for Tobey Maguire's character. Yeah. But it's a redemption.
A little bit, yeah.
It's a redemption for Amazing Spider-Man. Like, because, I mean, Tobey's kind of got a good life back in his world. And obviously Peter, Thomas Holland's struggling, which is his movie. But there's also this thing where he gets to fix kind of like his older brother version of Spider-Man in a sense. Like his, like it kind of is different. Like we actually kind of sense as he's going back that he's going to go back as a different Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, like,
a different guy.
Would they have? I guess they're doing the multiverse thing anyway. But like, would the MCU have like dove into the multi? And I know like that Spider-Verse didn't make like all the money in the world, and like if you look at the box office to this day, it's not like the biggest like mark ever. But it certainly like had this big impact on like. Because like, look, now everything's a fucking like it was the first multiverse thing technically, or was it not?
Yes.
Yeah, like years before anything else. Like, and it's a risky thing too, because not everyone likes like even comic wise, like not everyone is like, because Spider-Man has a lot of eras, obviously, and like one of the big ones that they wouldn't that this era is mainly focuses on these movies is like the Spider-Verse, like the different universe versions of him. But you obviously have like clone stuff, and then there's like high school Peter, and there's like actual like old grown up older Peter, and so yeah, like.
Well, it grossed $400 million, almost $400 million.
Maybe it's pretty good. Yeah. But I mean, it's not like the craziest thing ever. But like, I just think that movie's influence that it's had on both other animated films and even like the direction that Marvel took for stuff. Like, I don't know I think No Way Home they did because like because like this style of film was received well. Like, kind of.
That's an interesting take. I think it was a good test market for it.
In a sense, yeah.
And I think it actually, in some ways,
And I don't want to be. And there's
When
still some
Sony
thought that these
tries-
characters might that at some point maybe that Spider-Verse will make its way like in a cameo sense to the MCU because of with the whole like.
I mean, I feel like they've done the cameo. Just give me freaking Peter. Give me Garfield back. Give me.
I mean, this
Garfield.
movie's gonna be full of
Give
like
me Spider-Man.
to all the
3.
Spider-Man. To if you're a
Amazing Spider-Man
If you're
3.
a Spider-Man like fan though, like if you were like a kid who grew up watching like Spider-Man cartoons or like if you grew up watching comics, like you're going to see your Spider-Man in this.
Yeah.
Because like even like you've seen the trailers and there's like the villain's obviously Spider-Man 2099, which is a very cool character that we never got anywhere close to seeing like on the screen. Obviously you have Spider-Gwen who's like very popular in her own right.
Yep.
Spider-Woman,
We got a couple new
They brought
ones.
back the older Peter again, which
Yeah.
they only showed him in the most recent trailer actually, which was I'm happy they brought him back because he was one of the better parts.
Well,
of the
he's
first
a
movie.
grounding character in it, and I think it's important.
I
to
love
have
that
these
version of
characters.
Peter actually, genuinely. I think
Yeah.
that version of Peter is like really good. Like.
Yeah, because it's like really things just didn't go very well for him,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. No, I'm really like I don't know. I think I'm really excited about this one too.
And they just like stuck so closely to like the while also making it a Spider-Verse thing at the same time. Like they also like managed to like really like from what I know of like Miles Morales' origin, like they stick very true to like that story as well. So they do like
I
they
agree.
combine
Yeah.
two different pretty big story ideas,
Right.
like and do them at the same time without making them feel like overbloated. And I don't think the movie's that long either. Wilson Fisk's the villain in that shit, and it's like and that's like it's a weirdly kind of a weird fit for that, but he's like and they do the very comedic version of Wilson Fisk from like a very specific comic run where his like head is like in the middle of his fucking chest.
Right.
Like it's like the character designs are also like super
Well, 'cause
weird.
Wilson-
Like even remember Green Goblin?
Yeah.
Green Goblin in Spider-Verse was like a 10-foot tall like
Right.
monster.
Right.
Like it was like
Well, again, in animation, you can have a lot more
Yeah.
fun with some of the things. And that's obviously hurt the
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
And also,
movies at
honestly,
times.
I think one of the greatest animated scenes of all time is in this movie, which is like when he like does the jump off the roof.
Yeah.
Like that scene is like so fucking good. Like the music's good. Like it's animated
It's still
so
kinda funny to
well.
me.
Like
it is funny to me because I still I
Voice
still watch
acting's great.
occasionally. I watched Spider-Man 2 just on. I saw part of it on
it shows up all the time. Yeah.
tape, TV, or whatever it was, and I still think like even though like obviously it's been a long time since even Spider-Man 2 came out. I still think the CGI in that movie holds up pretty damn good.
Yeah, better than some things. Yeah,
You know.
there's better parts than others. Like there's some parts like I remember like when like they're on like the wall.
Yeah.
Like that, but although some parts of that, the building, like the environment stands up pretty well. It's just while they're floating occasionally. Like,
Gotta remember too, like I remember when Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man came out, the Tobey Maguire one, and really we had the X-Men,
yeah,
and then before that, we
Blade.
had some other movies, Blade.
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck. Oh yeah, one of these guys wrote Howard the Duck.
Oh my, no
The guys,
fucking
one of the guys
shot.
who wrote
Puss in
Boots wrote Howard the Duck.
Jesus Christ. Speaking of Howard the Duck.
Let me finish that. My point would be is that really, and you have to go all the way back to Batman in the 90s and Superman in the 80s to actually see a superhero in a comic accurate costume. Because they kind of got into that weird things after the Batman movies kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
That we had to make them kind of get away from their comic book accurate costumes. And Spider-Man and they finally had CGI so they could do the Spider-Man stuff.
I mean,
and
isn't
I
Spider-Man
remember
still a
seeing
little
that
bit
opening
different?
sequence,
Yeah.
the trailer when he's just going around and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be great. And I think just it
Yeah,
benefited
weirdly,
from
that suit
because
is unique because like I don't think because that has the web over like
Yeah,
it's
right.
like it's almost like
Right.
a different layer
Yeah.
and that's not typically like the way that Spider-Man's drawn, but it does feel like Spider-Man that suit like, and if anything that's still I still kind of think that first suit is still the most iconic of the
whose first suit?
Maguire's.
Yeah.
I think Maguire's Spider-Man suit is still kind of like what you think of when you think of
Well,
Spider-Man.
that's
You know
why
what
I
mean?
feel like-
even with Holland around.
Well,
and
that's
even
why
with,
I
like,
feel
Amazing
Holland's
Spider-Man,
suit
like,
at the end. Holland's suit at the end reminds me of Tobey Maguire's first suit.
Well, that's why it's like the blue. It's like the blue and
Yeah,
It's
like
blue
it's
and
almost
red,
like
right?
when he
Yeah.
makes his new suit that it's almost it's inspired
Well,
by.
I think that's the idea
by
what they were trying to
Toby.
evoke. They were
Yeah.
trying to evoke with like the small apartment. Like that's exactly the vibe
Right.
they're trying.
It's
to,
almost
to
it almost
do.
could have been the same fucking apartment.
Because they're gonna do like Broke and like college.
Yeah,
like,
which is really what I
like
remember about
photographer,
Spider-Man.
like
I don't ever
Spider-Man
remember
now.
like in the comics and the.
No, we can move on from the high school
Yeah.
thing now. We're good
Right.
with that.
Yeah, I don't want
Which
to.
is-
Well, he's 40. 40. Like, so let's get,
he's like, at a certain point,
we stop
like, he
with
looks
that?
young. Like, they did a pretty good, like, they did
They
a much
did,
better
but
casting job.
enough.
I don't think there was ever, like, even by the third movie, I didn't think it was ridiculous that this kid was a high schooler.
Sure.
Some of the other characters.
Oh
yes,
my God,
It's like some of the other characters, but then again, they even fixed that by having
Flash
them out
looks
of
like
school most of the time.
Flash
you know
looks
what I
like
mean?
he's getting a pension.
I mean, he did so
The
good.
new
He did so
Flash.
good in Willow.
Don't even get me started. Thank
But
God
that
they
was him,
canceled-
right?
Thank
That
God
was
they,
that-
I don't even know, but thank God they canceled that shit.
Thank fucking God.
Oh my God. Okay, I will say don't watch Willow.
Well, we were too nice to Willow. When the 2 weeks that we watched it, we were too
well,
nice to it.
because we watched 2 and it had some nostalgia, which made it interesting.
I had never seen the first one.
And
so
then
that
it was
didn't-
like, and then I watched the original, and you know what? To be fair,
there were just people that couldn't act, or like their
to
lines
be
were-
fair,
yeah.
it's just like the original. It's
I mean,
bad.
the original's not good either. Like
Val Kilmer's good in the original. And the guy who's kind of supposed to be Val Kilmer's kid, and
He's
then
the
he
only
gets-
good character.
and he gets kidnapped, so we don't even see
Oh,
him.
true, you're
so
right.
when we gave up, and now we never know because they
Which,
canceled
to be
it
fair,
anyway.
like that character I liked more than most of the other characters,
Yeah.
and he was gone immediately.
Yeah.
And then the only other character I liked was the guy who was like
the fighter guy
was
the
like
old
that
dude,
guy, yeah,
the
who-
old dude.
the older one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only entertaining
Yeah.
character. Like that's the
And but they can't when the main character is the worst character on the show.
And the
it's
fight,
bad.
they did like a fight scene in the second episode. It's like, what is this? And it was like, it was like one of the worst choreographed things I've ever seen.
All right, moving on.
And it didn't
So-
look bad in other ways too, which was super weird. Like I don't know what the fuck they were doing. I'm
lazy.
so worried about
I
Percy.
think
I'm
Anthony
so worried
Kennedy
about
had a lot
Percy.
to do with that one. It
I'm
was
so
terrible.
worried about Percy Jackson. I'm so worried
Yeah,
about
I'm
it.
sorry.
I'm so worried.
I'm so worried about
I'm
Percy.
so worried.
I'm worried
man.
for you.
Well, to be fair,
Your heart's gonna be broken.
to be fair, like it's
Prepare for your heart to be broken.
to be fair, it's a young adult novel. Like it's
Yeah.
not. It's not like firm. Like you know what I mean? Like
you're not wrong.
And to be fair, for like my own sanity and to just prepare myself for like maybe just like because I don't want to go into it and then be like mad at it for not being like mature, because like there are mature moments in the books, like especially as like you know the characters age,
Yeah.
and even like with the way you get to like there's the second series of those books where like they go from being like way shorter. Like they shorter fantasy novels to more like epic fantasy length where they're
Sure.
like longer books, and then those ones are more mature and they're older. They're like 18 and 19 and 20 in those compared to like when they're 12 to 16. So like so there's an idea, and just for the fact that it's a season at least that means they can just do the actual plot this time instead of whatever the fuck they did in the movie in 2012, which isn't the plot of the fucking book at all. And then, actually, to be fair, Riordan, the author, is like basically like has a shit ton of creative control over this. So I will, like that's what we always ask for, or what we always kind of hope for, or at least that we hope that like a student of that person is going to like do it.
Let me give you a take on this and why I think that they've got a lot of potential still with Percy Jackson if they do it right.
Because it opens a new market essentially.
So the first book comes out in 2005. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're 7th, 8th grade, 8th grade. So many of the people that remember when this book came right out at the very beginning, they're parents now.
Yeah.
And they want to have this, they enjoyed it like you did because they're slightly older than you. And they're going to want to share this with their children. Yeah. So there is this like real good concept, you know, like kind of like how Star Wars is at times where, you know, like parents and kids can watch it together. So they aren't going to have like, it's going to be still.
Yeah, my thing is there's just no
But as
reason.
long
I know
as
the
they
books, and there's no reason
understand-
they can't be Harry Potter. You
They-
know what I mean?
right.
Like there's no reason at all
as
that
long
those
as
books
they
cannot be Harry
understand
Potter.
that it can be like their Harry Potter,
Yeah.
and also that they can also make it good and not like it's on the CW.
And they can really do it good,
You know.
especially if they're going to be coming out against like whatever shitty HBO Harry
Right.
Potter thing is coming out now.
I don't even
which
wanna
like
talk
who
about
knows
that.
if that's ever going to fucking happen.
Well,
But,
now
like,
there's a
nobody even
writer's strike.
cares. Nobody even
Yeah.
gives a fuck.
No
like, everyone's
one
like,
talked
no.
about that.
No, everyone talked about it and said no. Like
Right.
they were like, it's like you still have the existing characters. Like you would rather,
Yeah.
like you
Just
just
give me
like do
yeah,
a
where are they
sequel
now?
thing,
Yeah.
which you don't have to pay J.K. Rowling for,
Right.
Because she's a piece of shit.
All
We should
right. Well, yeah. So.
What like I'm gonna fuck J.K. Rowling. If you like J.K. Rowling, turn the podcast off. I don't care. You can go fuck herself.
Okay.
Pretended to be literally for years. Pretended to that like there was all this liberal shit in her book. Like and she would like for years would do, actually Hermione was black the whole time. And it was just because she realized that like as it was like oh I wrote a really white book and then one of the races in the book happened that like the fucking It's like, and they didn't fucking like. I've never even watched the fucking movies, and I've seen the Jew goblins or whatever the fuck they're called. Like dude, no.
Okay,
No. Let me
make this quick because
describe.
I've not seen any of these movies.
There's goblins.
I've never seen a Harry Potter
goblins
movie.
in like the Harry Potter universe. There's like other races of magic creatures or whatever. And the goblins, they run the bank of the Wizarding World,
boy.
and they're
God.
Jewish caricatures.
Oh my
They're
God.
like genuinely, like they're bankers, and they're Jewish characters, like long noses, and like the shriveled up, like little, like literally, like genuine, like fucking 1200, like Jewish, like fucking like anti-Semitism shit, like baked into it. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on here. Like, and I don't know how nobody in the new fucking like Harry Potter game that a certain community tried to boycott and it didn't work because that was a dumb idea. It's like, the fucking goblins were. Again, the goblins are also a servant race, if I remember correctly, as well, to the wizards in the world. And the entire plot of the game is there's a goblin revolt, and your job is to stop the goblin revolt. So your job is like to keep the oppressed class still oppressed. That happens to be a Jewish caricature.
Let's move on. Let's move on because I don't care.
And that's on
I
top
honestly
of, and that's
I
on
didn't
top
read
of
the
being,
books.
Yeah,
I didn't
and that's on
see
top
any
of
the
being
movies.
Queen of the Turfs.
I tried to watch one time the Fantastic Beasts and fell asleep 3 times. So
And that's on top
I
of
could care
allying
less.
herself with the worst of the worst humanity to attack
we
trans
understand.
people.
I don't want
so.
let's focus on our stuff. All right,
I'm
so
not usually too political, but when I feel
I'm
passionate about something, I will fucking call
yeah,
that
no,
person
and you
out.
got
Fuck
it
that
out.
bitch.
So I'm not complaining about that. But all right, so the other good news is we went to see the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and I loved it.
Yeah, pretty good.
I loved it. I think
Yeah.
that they
This is the best one in a while. This is the best one since fucking this is the only one I've gone into recently and was like not like didn't get like didn't get any level of like disappointment from.
I'm gonna say that in terms of
Maybe since like Shang-Chi.
yeah, Shang-Chi's good.
Because even No Way Home, I have a couple things. I don't like the ending of No Way Home. I think the ending of No Way Home's a bit like yada yada, a little bit lazy.
Well, they kind of set
with
it
the
up
whole
for,
like I think the memory thing is dumb. Because they're just gonna bring back. Because like they're just gonna bring. You don't think they're gonna just bring back Zendaya like 20 minutes? Like it's fucking Zendaya. She's the most popular actress on the fucking.
well, no,
planet.
she's gonna be in it.
That's what. Yeah, but she's gonna be back and with her memories by like a half hour in. Like there's not gonna be like. Come on. Like let's be real. It's fucking. They have Zendaya casted.
Can't they just
like,
fall in love again from scratch?
That's fucking stupid. No, they're not gonna do that. They're not, what are we gonna do? The same plot again?
Well, because the funny thing
we
is,
already did that plot.
I know
We already. It's like.
he can.
She's just gonna remember, like, like she loved him
Well,
so much she remembered. Like
so
that's what it's gonna be.
Maybe
like,
he'll save her again and he'll kiss her upside down.
like it'll probably be like halfway through she remembers. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. But she'll still be there though. Like it's not like they're not gonna take a break off from her for a movie and then go back.
she's
like
she's on the Dune planet. She's busy.
Zendaya just works all year round because she's
She's the it girl, so she's got to make the money while she can, because she won't be the it girl forever. So
long time, if I'm being honest. So.
she's in everything.
I mean, she's actually fucking done.
All right,
yeah,
let's talk
how
about.
is she? Wait, how is she done 2 Dune movies, a bunch of other shit, like a random Netflix movie?
She's young. She's
fucking-
got energy.
I
I used to be a lot
3
busier when
Spider-Man
I was
movies
younger.
in 5 years, like 2 Dune movies, a Netflix movie, did Euphoria for HBO.
Well, she
she
probably
has a fucking lot of shit.
She's probably not
actually.
had a lot of downtime because she knows that
Yeah, that's a
like she's
lot.
smart enough to not have downtime
Yeah.
because she's got to get and
And
she
if anything, she's getting
and
just
what I
more
will
and more
say
popular, so.
and what I will say is she's picked very good projects.
No, she doesn't have too many bad. Yeah, she doesn't have flops actually.
She's
'Cause even like
whoever her agent is, or whoever,
Yeah, she's a smart
or she's
agent.
smart enough to know herself. She's got very good intuition on what she should pick because she's picked some really, really good things, and she's
a very down to earth celebrity.
and I
Her
honestly-
and Holland are actually very nice. Like,
and I
celebrities to
honestly,
watch,
and
too.
I
Like,
honestly wasn't sure that I was going to like her because of like her being on a freaking Disney show that you guys watched. When
I
you
mean,
were
that's all
kids.
like fucking.
But I was like, oh my god, is
like 10
that
years
that
ago.
girl? Is that the girl from like Shake It Up Chicago or whatever it was? The hell it was? And like that's. I'm like,
Yeah.
it is. And then I saw her, and whenever I saw her in the first time, I'm like,
If
wow.
you ever want to see something
she's not
funny,
bad.
if you ever want to see
She's not
something
bad.
funny, go look at the
What
two.
happened to the other girl?
The exact.
The
Well,
poor other girl.
she's an OnlyFans model.
Oh.
And like and I think she directed I think one of the more recent things I heard is she like directed a porn video or something. But she,
Well, at least she's directing.
No, it's actually very funny what each of the. it's actually very
She's
funny
not
what
appearing,
It's actually very
she's
funny if
directing.
you look at like those two ways because they both did like,
It's
the,
like-
they each did the
it's
classic. The classic Disney, the two classic Disney Channel like or Nickelodeon
like,
star paths, either like
You're
fucking
either-
nothing or
You're
like one of the biggest
you're either
stars in the world.
Selena, what's her Gomez?
Yeah, like Selena Gomez or Ariana
you're-
Grande or Zendaya or you're like a
or
drug
the-
addict
Or what was the other? Jake and Josh or whatever.
or like a pedophile
you're
or
either,
something.
You're,
It's
you're
like-
Josh Peck or you're yeah.
But yeah, you have her like one of the biggest stars in the world, and the other one is like one influencer, like online, like influencer route. Like that's it's like,
That's it. She'll maybe be on Dances with the Stars or some crap. Like
I
that.
don't think so.
All right, so
She's
all
not.
right,
She's
so,
not very PG these
so
days.
we went to see Guardians, obviously, and I really liked it. I gotta say, I liked everything about this movie. I thought that
Yeah, I got little to know.
there was a few little things that they had to do
The
for
pacing
story
stuff,
versions.
but
So a lot of people felt like the pacing was weird. Or
I
whatever.
actually didn't get too much of that, but,
But
I can see occasionally what they're talking about. But
What I really liked is that the way they did the Rocket backstory. I don't like it when we get like a 20-minute sequence. I like that it was kind of broken up and it was fit within the context of what was happening to him, within what was happening to him, like within modern time. I felt like they, with the gun sat down and had a list of things he wanted to get done in this movie with these characters, knowing that it's probably his last run because he's going to be too busy doing DC
while, yeah.
stuff for a while. So he wanted to make sure he took care of like all the characters in a way, and even a lot of the like.
and he has the
those-
best MCU trilogy. Like
Yeah.
he has the most consistent.
That was what I wanted to get to.
trilogy,
I mean,
like,
I
quite clearly
I think of all the movies that have groups.
Captain America second, but
Captain America would be a close second.
But no, but the average of those
Yeah.
of the three films is like because honestly like two of my favorite films in the whole MCU are like Winter Soldier and Guardians. But then if you add like Guardians 2, which I think like isn't like the greatest MCU film, but I think is actually like probably not aged as poorly as other ones have, and like probably is a better rewatch than a lot of other MCU movies are, just because I think the Guardians are more likable, more unique characters than a lot of MCU characters are. Because here's the thing, whether Guardians is your favorite thing or not, it very clearly is the most distinct thing in the whole MCU.
Right.
Like it's the most distinct corner that feels like itself. That
Yes.
it feels like that it actually kind of has like its own visual style,
Right.
James Gunn's style. Like the movies feel different when it's an MCU Guardians film compared to just like a normal MCU film.
Right, I agree with that, and I think like one of the things that I really liked was a lot of that, and that really when you think of the characters that you would say are the bad guys in Guardians, most of them end up
They're all good,
they
yeah.
become Guardians.
Yeah, true.
Like because really in a sense, Nebula,
Nebula's the main one, yeah. Mantis, I guess, yeah, kind of counts.
Space Earl.
Merle, yeah. Or
what's-
Space Merle?
What's the character?
Yondu.
Yondu.
Nice little
I mean,
cameo
let's
in
be
this, too.
honest. The second movie, that's the subplot with Yondu in the second.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
movie
Like,
is-
even though people, even
so
though,
even
like,
if you don't like the
movie
second
isn't
movie-
I think it's a weirdly paced and it goes back and forth. And I think
his
the problem
relationship
with, the second movie,
Rocket
Yeah.
in that movie, that is so good.
That's why that's why 2 I think like is aged better, because even if I don't think the ego,
Right.
I don't think the ego stuff's like the greatest in the world. I think the Nebula Gamora stuff's pretty good, and then I think like the ego Rocket half of the story with little baby Groot running around and then like fighting the Ravagers and stuff, and then obviously like kind of both going through very different, like Rocket and Yondu both kind of going through similar but different things at the same time, and then realizing kind of their similarities.
Well, they have to make Ego such a terrible father so that
Yeah.
it makes Yondu the better father.
But I think the Rock. But what I'm saying
You
is, I
need
think
it
the
for the
Rock.
story.
True, actually, very true. That is that good point. I think the Rocket Yondu part of the story like is one of the better like subplots of like maybe the MCU.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the better like
I mean,
side like stories like within a film, like in like, you know what I mean. I'm maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing a lot of stuff. But that seems to be one of the more notable, memorable like storylines within I would say the entire MCU to me at least. Like that's
And-
one
and
of the
let's be
better
honest,
parts of a movie.
Rocket's top 5 MCU characters.
Rocket's one of my favorite. Rocket's been my favorite Guardian since like the first
Incredibly-
one. I think he's the funniest of them by far.
Funniest, but also in a sense, one of the deepest characters.
And
in
then
the
that's
thing.
what he confirmed. Like that's what the part of this, like even in the one flashback
Yeah, he's
sequence.
like-
we don't want. I don't want to spoil too much actually,
Yeah,
but like,
well, movies been out. But I mean, my favorite
but like
line
even
in
he's
the
like, it's like the story's been what you said. At the
this story's been the Guardians has been your story all along. Like,
which Guns kind of has alluded to like outside of the movies, like in multiple times that he views like Rocket as like the heart of the team, and there's a little bit of that in the middle with what his realization is, and him realizing not to be an asshole to his other teammates. And I think it's a very specific reason why Rocket is the one that survives as well, which is even more heartbreaking now that Rocket is like the only one that survived, given that like at the beginning of his life he was the only one of his friends that like got away.
Yeah,
so
he had
now
to
like when everyone
deal with
snaps
that
away,
twice.
he did it twice for like 5 years. He
He's
lived
lost
without
two
that
families,
shit.
right.
So
That's a good
and
point.
again, and I think there's this one quote that I don't even remember when this is from, but James Gunn once called, or he's used this line a lot. Rocket is like the saddest creature in the universe, and like that's a heavy like line. Like it's like a very poetic, but it's a lot to live up to, and there's a lot of writing you have to do to like actually like make it so like that line actually like feels true. And then you watch what Rocket's story is, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the most tragic backstory like in the MCU thus far.
And then the way they end it, they give him the life that he finally deserves. Like, and that's why it's great. Like, I really like that they did that. I mean, there's so many Rocket lines that you remember, like in the second movie when Yondu says, what did he say? And he's like, welcome to the friggin' Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's right before Yondu's going to die. And it's just really cool, powerful moments. And I want to say that opening sequence, and obviously the opening sequences of Guardians are legendary. The first one is obviously hey, what's the matter when he's doing the whole thing the way they did it. So outside of what we're used to in a movie.
I don't remember what
second sequence. The second one is the ELO song when Baby Group's running around.
What was the opening to this one? I didn't remember.
It's just Rocket listening to that song.
It's a one
it's
shot.
Like a one shot of an animated character walking through the entire city, and the quality of animation in that 3-minute sequence, like when he's even fixing his pants and shit, it's so good.
Yeah, they're making you focus
It's
on the
so
CGI character for a
good.
long period of time, and he looks
Yes.
real. Like, he looks good. Which, to be fair, I think the Rocket, even back in 2014, I thought Rocket's CG was actually, like, pretty convincing and pretty
They've always
good.
felt. I mean, I think the
Rocket's
one
always
thing-
felt very tangible as a character.
Well, once
Like,
again, I would argue that James Gunn's going to say Rocket's got to look good.
I also think the
I'll
way
take
Rocket moves
a
around-
trade off.
Yeah,
I'll take a trade off, and I'll do that character as a practical effect.
Yeah.
If that means I can save money to make sure you guys are focused on making sure Rocket looks great.
I think it's also the way he, like,
Rocket
moves
can't
around,
look bad.
too, they've
Rocket
used
can't
to,
look
like-
bad. He's
Yeah,
got to
true.
look good. So a lot of new, like I liked some of the side. I loved the Cosmo use.
Yeah.
I thought that
I actually like Chris.
Kreglin was
yeah.
great in this. I thought you're a
Yeah.
bad dog, and like
Yeah, just the
stop,
little
stop,
bit that they
stop
get in
saying
this.
I'm a bad dog. I'm a good dog. Like all of that building.
This movie does feel it feels like like an actual culmination of the 3 other films,
Yes.
even with like the bring back of like a certain plot points and set pieces from different other movies. Like they have Nowhere again, like
Yeah.
the big head from like the first movie,
Yep.
which is like their home base now, and they use it for a very fun like weapon purpose,
Right.
like later on, which was unexpected actually.
Right. But Warlock is funny the way they incorporated.
Warlock where he's like
into
he's
the
like
movie.
a kid in a big guy's body, like
Right.
he's like Shazam,
And he's
basically.
bad at it.
Like,
He's just bad at it.
Like, he's like
I'm
show him what we're made of.
He's almost a
And then
mistake.
he just like melts the guy.
Yeah, he gives him. Yeah, like that's not what we meant. Like,
it's like
I mean, and then let's talk about the bad guy now.
pretty good.
I mean, really, he might be the most awful
He's the most
bad
fucked up.
guy.
Yeah, he's the
a
most-
pretty bad guy. Like he's awful.
Yeah.
He's not Thanos level powerful.
Yeah, we don't get
but,
like a really good fight scene with him or anything, but
because
like
that's not his thing.
But no, he's like an evil scientist. He's like a monster in like that sort of sense.
So,
like,
but
more than,
he's
like, a physical
powerful
monster.
enough
He is powerful,
because
though.
he's put in a lot of those modifications into himself that it's great that all the Guardians have to be used to defeat him. Like it wasn't just Rocket.
Yeah.
They all had to work together to freaking defeat the guy.
trying to think of,
and
like,
he's
this-
incredibly well performed. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, like some people felt the movie's a little slow in the middle.
It's a little bit, but
the
like-
only thing that James Gunn does sometimes, it's like okay, and I love every song that you used, but there is
I think this is the weakest soundtrack of the
this. No, I liked a lot of the soundtrack.
No,
on this.
but I don't like this soundtrack as much. Maybe it's just like the errors of the songs or something.
Yeah.
But like I like the previous 2 soundtracks
there's a couple.
better than I like this.
There's a
one.
couple like lazy ones.
I
Like
mean,
the Beastie-
I mean, if you look
like
at the
the
other
Beastie
couple
Boys
movies, there's
ones,
some lazy ones
the
too.
Beastie Boys is kind of lazy.
A little bit, yeah.
Most of the other ones were not a lot of songs that had a lot of people didn't really know them.
Oh, okay.
I think
Maybe
like
that was it. I don't
a
know.
lot of the stuff in the first and second movie aren't well-known songs. Like they did a really good in terms of the music development. I felt this one at times was a little lazy.
I think it's always been hard on the soundtrack side of things since the first one, because the first one is fucking
true.
like the first one is a nearly flawless soundtrack, like genuinely, like it's such a different. And also, the first one's that's what really lets the first one stand apart from a lot of the other MCU films too. Is like the soundtrack.
Well, I mean, like I think he's walking through listening to what Creep.
I think so.
At the beginning,
maybe. Yeah. I think there's a couple songs in there. I don't know.
Crazy for You is I'm trying to think the ones.
I think it's the other.
Yeah, No Sleep to Brooklyn I thought was kind of lazy. Badlands was kind of a weird choice at the end. I think he just wanted to throw a Bruce Springsteen song in.
Probably.
Alice Cooper, Always Chasing Rainbows was very well done.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else.
The Replacements, I Will Dare, is good.
I'm trying to think of like other characters, plots, and stuff in this movie.
And then they
Mark
do a
doesn't have a lot
throwback
to-
to Come and Get Your Love with Redbone because they kind of
they do
needed
that
to.
the post-credit scene.
You know.
Yeah.
And I like the way it ended. I like the way it goes back to Earth and all that stuff. And I thought
Yeah,
that it.
spoilers in case we already didn't say
Yeah.
that or not. But yeah, they give it like what's it called? Peter goes back to Earth, which they kind of make Peter's story in this like that he's kind of been like running from. He has mommy issues basically. You know what I mean? Like he lost his mom early on, and then he's kind of like tried to fill like the womanly presence in his life with different women for years. That's kind of like that's basically what they said, and then. And obviously, like he lost Gamora, and that's kind of where his story mostly focuses around. I didn't know how they were gonna make Gamora work, and she's in a lot more of this movie than I thought she would be in. Like she's probably like in the movie the second most amount actually, but I don't know. Despite the fact
the
that she's a
actress
different
is
character,
a big star in the trilogy.
well, obviously, yeah.
you know.
But I didn't know like how much she was going to be in it just because of the memory loss thing, obviously, or like because she's a new version of Gamora. And I think they do is really interesting, like actually like not thought provoking, but like actually like well thought out like conversations about like that phenomenon and like how two people like even if they were like because again this is an older or like a past. Gamora who got brought forward. Like so even if that like we as the movie goes on, we get to see like more and more of our Gamora that we previously knew. And like Pratt gets to see it. But they're not at the same point. Like at this like Pratt is years removed from like the person he was when they first like became like a thing. So and I don't know, and I think that a lot of what Gamora's like lines of dialogue are related to it. I like when she just freaks out at him. Like that's a good one. She literally just gets mad at him. Like for like it's like what's like and she says to like what is so wrong with you that you need like me to
Right.
like,
No, it fits
and that's like
into
a real
plot
thing.
well.
That's like a really like close to home issue that like a lot of like just people in general deal with. Like when it comes to their own like self-worth and like and like actually working through issues you have, and instead like having somebody else hold you together.
Two things that I thought they did really well in this trilogy, because it would be very easy to just make Drax the same and not have any growth. And I
Drax
think,
has a lot of growth in this.
And obviously I think Batista in terms of actors
has improved massively.
Let me tackle how I think of Dave Batista. Like Dave Batista could just be Arnold Schwarzenegger. And just do this, or The Rock, and do the same thing over and over and over again. And I really appreciate the fact that the actor wants to do different types of things.
Wants to impress people.
And he wants to be good at what he does, and he doesn't just want to get in every movie. And sure, he wants to make money. I'm sure that's a big part of what he does.
And he's got fun roles too. Like Drax was obviously his breakout one, and like.
But he's very good in Blade Runner.
Talk about
he's
that he
very
wants
good
to
in the
move on
Onions.
from Drax.
In the Onions,
but like he's still given it the respect it deserves, and he's like reinvented it, and he's been the funniest character.
Yeah. But they let the character really grow really well, and
especially in this one.
And they really gave him some moments too, which I thought was
a
important.
great ending without killing him, which everyone thought he was
because everybody
dead.
just figured he'd be dead.
So
he could go back to his
he was
family.
done for years at this point.
I mean,
Batista's in Dune. He's gonna be a big character in this new one because he's a more I think by this part of the story, that
Right.
character becomes more involved.
Right, he does.
And then he's obviously he's in fucking James Bond. He was in the Knives Out sequel.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, he's done a lot of, and again, another
and
actor.
he's been more impressive as he's been.
Another actor that is deciding to make really good choices. He knows that he's a certain physical type, so he has some limitations. But at the same time, he's finding ways to do like those things and not just going to the lowest common. I'm sure he's
playing
been
a much
offered
more
all kinds
variety
of
of roles
stupid,
than, like,
terrible
Rock does.
films. Like I'm sure they tried to get him to be in like the freaking not Transformers, like the stupid, group movies, Vin Diesel movies. But I also thought they did an incredible job because obviously we love Karen Gillan from Doctor Who, and we love what they do with Nebula in this. They just make Nebula just another member of the team, and like she knows what she was, but she's like Black Widow
she's
said, she's
matured
gotten
a
rid
lot
of
off-screen.
the red in her ledger. Like she's no longer
she worked
that
with
person.
the Avengers for like 5 years.
Yeah.
with Rocket, and they were doing like protective.
Yeah,
shit,
they were doing a
so-
lot of shit in there, and like her relationship with Rocket is
she's
very
more
well
akin
defined.
to what Gamora is by like the second. She's more Gamora.
Right.
She's like Gamora now. She's like almost grown into
They've
the
almost
Gamora.
switched
Yeah,
roles.
like she became Gamora, like almost as like to honor her in a sense.
Yeah,
anyway,
I
like-
mean, I think that they ran out of time, but there probably could have been a few more things of them being sisters in the movie, and there really wasn't. But
To be
it,
fair,
it
that was
almost
what
wouldn't
that
have
was what
fit.
the last movie was about.
I agree.
And these aren't. And to be fair,
We did that in
these
Endgame.
aren't. Yeah, we already did that with Endgame a little bit, and the last Guardians movie was Gamora's main plot was like rekindling with Nebula and then
Right.
having her join the team and stuff.
Right. I just liked when the two of them together. So if a couple more interactions would have made it more.
Yeah,
fun.
maybe so. But even then, like, even though they are sister or whatever,
Yep.
it's still not like their version, kind of. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it is still like a different, like that is an alternate universe from back in time, Gamora, with like, yes, her sister Nebula, but it's not like
Right.
her Nebula died in the last
And I think
movie, so.
that's kind of the weird thing for all of them.
So I think it's just awkward.
Yeah.
It's more of like
That's
they have
why they
respect.
kind
They're
of-
still sisters, but
Yeah.
they know it's weird. Like,
Well, it's kind of funny because they did that on Star Trek when they
Mm-hmm.
used to do the Mirror Universe, and they would have the characters from the Mirror Universe, and they kind of had to do that weird.
and I
thing
think
with the Mirror
Gamora's
Universe.
decision makings actually feel pretty natural. Like, 'cause she's obviously a Ravager, so it takes her a little bit to like get more heroic as we'd like.
Yep.
And
I
even,
thought-
even the cameos, they just had cameos from like all these people from the previous movies.
Yeah,
like
like
obviously
the-
they brought back the Ravager, like
Yeah,
Stallone and those
Stallone's
side
group.
characters
Yeah.
from the first one. They brought even like at
Yeah,
the one
Howard
point,
the Duck.
they're playing poker or something at the table or
And
cards.
it's just a bunch of random
And
guys.
it's, and
from
it's
the
all characters from the previous movie. So it's like
Right.
the shop owner
Right,
for who,
from the
who
first
like
movie.
Quill tries to sell
Yeah,
like
the very
the
first
stone
movie.
to,
Yep.
like Howard the Duck. I'm sure there's other guys
Yeah.
like sitting there too. A couple guys from the Christmas movie or whatever.
I
like-
just thought it was like, I mean, even the way they were like the dogs playing cards with them.
Yeah.
And there's like there was some just neat stuff like that. I mean, really, really good stuff.
But yeah, impressive.
Warlock,
Give it a watch. It's
is-
better
you
than
know,
the typical
yeah.
MCU fare has been for a while.
Well, again,
so.
I think in terms of, let's talk about this now. Trilogies. I think it's the best of the three trilogies.
Yeah, I don't think we have to. Is there only 3 trilogies?
Of
There's 4. There's 4
characters like
trilogies.
this.
Oh, I guess there's
The character. I'm
wait,
sorry.
There's 5 MCU.
I
There's
said
6
it. I
MCU
said
trilogies.
that's not
Oh
what
my
I meant.
God.
I said 3 trilogies. I meant trilogies, not 3.
Oh, okay.
The 3 is a trilogy. So of the trilogies,
Well, like, let me just go. We have Iron Man, which that's easily better than because Iron Man is one good movie in 3.
I don't
Captain
dislike
America.
3 as much as you, but I hate 2.
But 3 is also. But I'm just saying in the grand scheme of the MCU, like even 3 is not very high up. Like
No.
at this point,
No.
given like the amount of movies that have come out
both
now.
Captain America.
Captain America, the weakest one's the first one.
Yeah.
Which is saying something because like. I mean, a lot of people do actually have a lot of.
I like the first
I mean,
one.
first Avenger is very interesting because I feel like people either have it in their like top like 7, like somehow like because of weird, or like it's in their bottom 5, and it's in my or it's in.
I like Captain.
It's
I
more
like
towards
the
my
first
bottom,
Captain America a lot.
actually.
I like the first Captain America.
I
lot.
just don't. I'm a war guy, and they don't do anything with the war.
what
They don't use the war
why
enough to
why
me.
Captain America first one is so important is because it establishes what the character is.
Yeah.
And if you don't establish what the character is, then you can't do 2 and 3.
Like for instance, like how like because obviously like the thing
You know
they
what
do,
I mean?
I just think they go too much with the like I like part of Captain America is he like yes the groupies fighting Hydra are Nazis, but they're like I kind of want to see him fight Nazis too. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of want to see Captain. Like, that's Captain America's like first comic is him punching fucking Hitler in the face. Like, I don't need like just the Red Skull and like him just fighting like the Science-y boys.
Well, that's
you
how
know
they
what I mean? Because think about it like this. I know that different situations, but like in Wonder Woman, which is like a similar film,
Yep.
Wonder Woman gets to take part in an actual set piece
Yes.
that is related to the war that she's in,
Right.
and not just a montage of like random clips. Like what, Captain, the Captain America raiding the scene to free the prisoners actually a fun action sequence. But that's nothing. That's not a World War II action sequence.
Yeah, like, I always wish we
Wonder
saw
Woman
more
has
of
a
his
World
team.
War I action
Yeah.
sequence in it.
Yeah, I wish
You know
we
what I
would have
mean? Like-
seen a little bit more time with him and Bucky in the war with
Yeah,
the
they
other
just
characters.
they just do a quick like montage
because obviously
like,
my favorite part of Wonder Woman is how she changes because she meets all those other people.
and they
that
spend
she's
20
working
minutes.
with.
They spend 25 minutes of him like
Yep.
on like in the fucking one costume, like doing like shows and stuff. And
Yeah,
it's, like,
that's
like it just
montage.
takes too
Okay,
long.
sure.
It's just there's too
All right,
long
well,
in the
let's-
beginning, and there should be a
There's
little
other
bit more
trilogies.
at the end.
What other trilogies you got?
What else we got? We got so that Captain America. We got Guardians. Spider-Man has a trilogy now. Weird in the shortest amount of time. 5 years they made themselves a trilogy. What else we got?
Ant-Man.
Oh, Ant-Man, yeah. No, it's not Ant-Man. It's not. It's certainly not Ant-Man. And then I guess Avengers technically has. That gets 4 movies. But Thor.
I can't.
No,
Thor
Thor's
is-
not good either, though. So yeah, this is the
Okay,
best.
so let me have a turn.
Yeah.
Let me have a turn. So Thor 1 and 2 are average at best.
Yeah, that's being
But
nice.
there's
The second one, at least.
the second one especially. Thor's got technically 4 movies, but
The Thor one's not that bad.
But
actually.
3 is great, but 3 isn't fixed by the fact that 2 is so bad. I think, and obviously Avengers it's not even compared to Avengers because Avengers is everybody. So it's almost like it's not a like, but Guardians 3 is better than the second Avengers movie.
Yeah, I think most things in the MCU are better than Avengers 2. Actually, if I'm being honest, I don't
So-
like Avengers 2 very much.
So I guess you could argue that maybe the because Winter Soldier and Civil War are both so
I would
good.
imagine that some people argue Captain America trilogy might be better.
And I can
would
accept that
imagine that's a
argument.
common
and
argument.
I would acknowledge
I would still
and
say
accept.
I would say like Guardians are more stylistically unique than
Yes.
any of the Captain America movies. But
yeah, 2 and 3 are just a lot alike.
I mean, I think what the Captain America movies are is none of the Captain America movies feel not like the MCU. Like they all feel like they're like well within the MCU and have the MCU feel. But I think they almost feel like the best executed movies with the MCU feel.
Sure.
With like the repetitive, not the repetitive, but like the kind of common MCU, like especially the ground level, like which we occasionally get from like a Black Widow or like this level of film or like a. I don't know. There's like you know what I mean.
The problem with Captain America 2 and 3 is that they're so closely related in a sense, and they're just there's fun moments.
I
in
used
it.
to not rate Civil War as much as other people did, but I don't know.
I really like Civil War.
I like Winter Soldier. Still my
Winter Soldier's probably
still
better
my
than Civil
favorite of the
War,
three,
but there's so much great fandom crap stuff in Civil War. Like there's just so many good introductions into that movie which make it work.
Well, I think that's what I think. What is kind of not working right
Because that's
now?
when we get Spider-Man.
Which people keep talking
know.
about, like why the MCU is not working as well as it has right now, and I think one of them is kind of like because I think people say like, well, there is this dumb phenomenon where every time an MCU movie right now doesn't make $1 billion, everyone's like, well, that means it
that's
failed,
Yeah.
and it's like that's not true. Like,
It's not true. As long as they didn't spend $1 billion on it.
fuck, I lost my train of thought. You make up something for a minute.
Well, I guess my point, and I agree with that. Is
what was
that
I saying? What was I just?
You were saying that there's the people that will say what's wrong with the MCU right now.
Oh, I think a lot of people attribute it to like, well, it's because you can't live up to the Avengers movies, and I'm like, in a way that's kind of true because it's like, how do you go bigger after already going so big? And it's like, and it's always going to be a little bit of an anticlimax going down to like, taking a step or two down,
Right.
and it's been more than a step or two, if we're being honest,
Right.
in terms of like the scale of things. But yeah, fuck, it just. I keep
Well,
losing
I
my
mean, I
fucking-
just think you're right. I mean, you can't.
I know what I'm gonna
You
say.
can't. You
know
can't
that
like
there was that
expect
era
every movie to be a phenomenon.
I
That's
mean more
ridiculous.
what I'm more saying is like, I think people a lot of the time only talk about the Avengers movies. But what I'm more talking about is I think that I'm just trying to think of the movies in my head. Like, think about like from when Winter Soldier like happens to like a Infinity War. Like that is like just a fucking run. Like there's not all the movies in there are great, but like in that period of movies, like starting with like a big like universal change, which was why I think a lot of people like Winter Soldier is because it does this big change to the MCU. Shield falls, so that affects like the next movies like in decent ways. Like you feel the effect in like Ant-Man in this little bit, and then you feel the effect in a lot in the next Avengers movie. Even though I don't like that film very much. So, but like you go into that year 2014, and you immediately get like Captain America 2, which like changes the landscape of the MCU, and then you have Guardians, introduces the cosmic side of things well for the first time, because the Thor movies don't. You have the Avengers movie, introduces Thanos at the end, has Ultron, whatever. Then you go next year, after an Avengers movie, Civil War.
Okay, well, we got to get out of here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, Doctor Strange,
stuff to do.
Thor Ragnarok, all those movies built up and like had relations to each other and interacted, and then it was a run. Like
they had a great run, and they all seemed to be connected in such a way that it all made sense.
Mm-hmm. It was cohesive.
I think there was a cohesive
coherent
plan. And obviously we've already talked about this, and everybody talks about it, is that the plan, and they always talk about phase this and phase that, but it doesn't really feel like everybody's on the same page with these phases.
Phase. Like this phase had no consistency. There was no theme to this phase beyond like maybe you'll see a multiverse thing, but even then, this is the multiverse saga in phase 1. Right. 2 projects dealt with 3 projects, I think, dealt with the multiverse, and none of them related to each other.
Let's just wrap it up. So, I like the ending with Guardians. I hope that we see some of these characters again.
I think we will. But they said we'll see Pratt again, whatever that means.
I mean, it says there's a little thing that we'll see that again. I just like how it ended, and I think I'll miss James Gunn. I mean, obviously we're going to see him doing other things.
Yeah. I do think Gamora's done, Drax is done, Nebula's done, Mantis is done. I think I think everyone from the original, besides the animated characters and Chris Pratt, seem to be done.
I feel like we'll get
because
Chris
there's a new Guardians team at the end that is mostly newer characters, and then Rocket and Groot.
Right.
So like those characters feel like they can show up in something else, if not their own Guardians thing at some point if that team proves to be popular or something. And then you have Chris Pratt around who are like, it'll probably be years till we see him again, but he will probably just show up again when it's time for him to show up.
It might not even be Guardians.
I doubt they have a plan for him right now. I doubt they know where he's showing up again.
Well, because gotta remember, first of all, like his main thing is that he worked with James Gunn. Yeah. So we don't know.
It might just be Avengers.
He could just show up in the Avengers.
It might just be Avengers.
They might be a situation where they bring him in because that is a big problem when they have these situations when he doesn't show up. Like, why don't the superheroes show up? Because they had the trailer for like Secret Invasion, and there's no superheroes in the movie except I think like Rhodey shows up for a minute again. Apparently he never fights. He just shows up and has one scene in one episode. So I don't even think like we're gonna. So like how are there things going
Fury.
on?
It's like a Fury show.
I know, but how do you have no superheroes show up on a superhero show?
Well, I don't know. I have to. To be fair, I have hope for. I don't have too much hope for that show because I know they do massive reshoots for some reason. But I have hope for that show because I think it maybe has the potential to be like Winter Soldier style again, which we need like more of that theme. Like that. What this phase missed most of all was like the MCU is usually we got to be done.
Yeah, we got 1 minute.
Like the MCU in that era I was just talking about, that run of movies. You want to know what that run of movies was? A great balance between street level seriousness for like our more earth-based like political minded heroes. Like, so we got a little bit of like the political nuances of like this MCU world and the way the governments react to them, the way they react to each other. And then you switch to like a happy-go-lucky thing occasionally. Right. Like it'd go back and forth. That's not what's happened. It just stays like, besides a couple things like Black Panther in moments, and then a couple of the TV shows for moments in an episode here or there. Sure. Like we've mostly been without that, the darker. Like the more serious, more like not adult, because I don't know if anything here is adult, but like you know what I mean, like Winter Soldier level storytelling.
Right. Well, there's lots of good stuff coming out, and Well, hopefully it's good. I guess we'll have to find out. There's
and then the Cosmic stuff hasn't been as good as the old Cosmic. There's no Ragnarok.
what?
And then the Cosmic stuff, like the more happy-go-lucky stuff, has not been Ragnarok good. It's not been Guardians 1 good.
But Guardians 2 and 3
now
both
Guardians 3's here, so that
has
counts.
fixed
but
it somewhat.
I'm
So,
talking about yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I think like all in all, I mean, it was it's obviously the best thing that we've had in a while. And I like if they hopefully they realize if they just put the work in and they get the right people and they're not spreading out these ideas too far, we won't have these problems.
Well, we could already know from like from behind the scenes stuff that there's definitely changes happening. Blade's delayed again, which is fun.
No, that's just well, now,
Because
but
the
now,
writers' strike.
but to be honest, everything's delayed.
Everything's gonna get delayed now.
I mean,
so.
unless it's already completely written.
Yeah, a lot of people really quickly got it out before the strike started for stuff that was close to done. Like I think there was a couple things that finished like the day before the fucking strike.
Yeah,
happened,
like
genuinely,
or what's going to happen in some of these situations. I think that's not always the best.
But there's
thing.
also weird rules
But
about
sometimes
improv and stuff too. So like for instance, like I read something that like Ryan Reynolds can't improv on the set of Deadpool 3, like while the writer's strike's going on, because that's technically writing dialogue.
But also I also heard that they were very specific that they were not going to work anyway.
Then okay, that's good then. And,
There's a lot of actors.
I mean, there has been some MCU people that
There's a lot of
been working,
actors
so.
that are going to support the writers, and they're going to not work.
To be fair, that's different than a lot of the time from because the production
Especially
companies
if you're
are
a
still
big
going.
actor and you can. Because
I've followed that strike a lot, and they are shutting down quite a bit of productions with protests and stuff. So
Yep.
because
All
again, by the way, please back the writer. They don't make fucking money. If you think they're fucking elites because they're just Hollywood writers, you're fucking stupid. Like just no, they're just they're employees too. Like the shows don't exist without the writing. They can. Like,
I know some writers, and
they're not rich just because they're Hollywood. They're
exploited.
exploited.
Some of them do very well, but it is not.
That's not the people protesting.
It is not an easy job. Like. Because you have to churn stuff out very quickly, and you know like you can't really have a bad script because you're constantly working, and they don't get the money that they should get considering and a lot of the ownership of some of the things. So
you get a lot of blame
and
sometimes
and they
too,
have
so.
been sticking it to the writers since streaming started.
No, they want to make them give
because
jobs.
well, let me finish. They're sticking it to the writers because they can, because the way the contracts were written didn't anticipate how much streaming was going to become, and they're kind of calling these things web series contractually. And then even though some of them go to the theaters and stuff. So
they're trying to screw them
kind of
over
a
like they
scam.
screwed the animation writers over years ago. And that's what they got the new writers are trying to avoid.
And the
They've
problem
seen
is
what happened to animation writers.
The problem
They've
is you
been
still have,
murdered.
and you have actors contracts coming up, and you have directors contracts coming up. So it's, even though we just got everything back from COVID, the problem is
a lot of unity between. I will say a lot of unity between the different unions working in there, which is good. Like that's a good thing.
Yeah. So the last time all these contracts happened, there was not a lot of unity. There's more unity now. So hopefully a lot of the unity sticks around and kind of makes
these companies have more money than they fucking let on.
They're all making a ton
they're
of
just
money.
taking it out as revenue. To give it to the actual people making the fucking product.
Right.
Come on.
Okay.
Stop exploiting people.
As
a guy says to capitalism.
Yes, we're wrapping up. So I want to thank you for watching. And sticking with us on Next of Kin. Our schedule's been a little bit tricky lately, so we're going to try to be as regular as we can, but certain weeks there's just too much to do. But again, there's a lot of cool stuff coming out, and we'll be back to talk about whatever we get to see. Not Avatar 2, but whatever we get to see next.